Okay, let's dive right into this. What you're about to see is a case sourced from the AVI team that seriously challenges everything you might think you know about forensic science. This is the story of Ellen Greenberg, and it starts as a tragedy but quickly spirals into a mystery that just seems to defy all logic.
So, let's just start with the question that sits at the very heart of this entire mystery. It seems like it should have a simple answer, right? But in this case, the official conclusion is anything but simple.
20. That's the number. The number at the center of this whole impossible story. 20 separate stab wounds found on the body of a 27-year-old teacher, Ellen Greenberg. Just keep that number in your head as we start to unpack all of this.
So here's the setup. We're in Philadelphia, back in 2011. A young teacher is found dead in her kitchen and the apartment is locked from the inside. The official ruling they land on, suicide. But the evidence, well, the evidence tells a completely different story.
But here's the thing. The first people on the scene did not think it was a suicide. In fact, the official story did a complete 180. This wasn't some straightforward investigation. It was a chaotic back and forth that honestly raises some serious questions right from the jump.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The trained investigators, the first people to see the scene with their own eyes, their initial professional judgment was homicide. So what could have possibly been powerful enough to make them completely reverse that decision?
And it gets even weirder. Forensic experts have said they've never seen anything quite like this. A case that flips from homicide to undetermined and then finally lands on suicide. What could possibly explain these massive changes?
All right, this is where the science comes in. We're going to look at the analysis from a forensic expert who has spent years studying this case, and his conclusions, based purely on the physical evidence, are absolutely staggering. Here's the key takeaway from the experts. It's considered biomechanically implausible. Just think about what that means. The physical act of stabbing yourself in the back of your own neck and your back over and over with enough force to kill, it's a series of motions that is pretty much physically impossible to do to yourself. Now, to really understand this next piece of evidence, and trust me, it's a bombshell, we need to quickly understand what a post-mortem injury is. See, when a person is alive, their heart is pumping blood, so wounds bleed a lot. After death, the heart stops, and that bleeding pretty much stops too.
And this is the big reveal. Years after her death, a neuropathologist looked at samples and found something incredible. One of the deepest, most severe wounds, one that actually went into her spinal cord, showed no signs of bleeding. The scientific conclusion is that it was likely inflicted post-mortem. So you have to ask yourself, how can a person possibly stab themselves after they're already dead? And that's not even all of it. That post-mortem wound is just one piece of a whole mountain of physical evidence that seems to directly contradict the suicide ruling. It just makes the official story harder and harder to believe.
Just look at this list. Multiple stab wounds to the back of her neck and head, blood flow that doesn't match how she was found, a strange patterned bruise on her neck, and bruises all over her body in different stages of healing. Any one of these things would be suspicious, but all of them together, they paint a picture that's just impossible to ignore.
This detail is what experts call gravitationally implausible. And think about it. It's just common sense. If you're sitting up and you're bleeding from your nose or mouth, gravity pulls the blood down, right? But the blood on Ellen's face flowed backward, toward her ears. The only way that happens is if, for some period of time, she was lying flat on her back.
So with all of this evidence, where does that leave her family? Well, for them, it's been a relentless, decade-long fight for justice. And unbelievably, in the system we have, there's no real way to appeal a medical examiner's ruling like this. There's no higher court.
This is not just some case file for them. It's become their entire life's mission. They've put literally everything on the line. They've mortgaged their own home just to pay for private investigators and lawyers to try and uncover the truth about what happened to their only child.
Which brings it all back to you. We've laid out the evidence, the contradictions. I want you to imagine for a second this was your daughter or your sister or your friend. Faced with this exact situation, what would you do? And that's the final haunting question we're left with. With so much scientific evidence, so much logic pointing in a different direction, why does the official ruling of suicide remain unchanged? It's a question that, for now, just hangs in the air with no answer. If you agree with this topic or want more like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support motivates me to bring the best content for you.